Alright, so FragPunk just dropped a couple days ago, and the big question on your mind is probably, should I start playing it? At first glance, it looks pretty fun and engaging. It's got style, it's got chaos, and it's definitely standing out from the crowd of other newly released games. But does it actually deliver something new and fresh, or is it just another game that will burn out quickly like the rest of them? I've spent some time with the game, testing it out and exploring what it has to offer in order to answer that question. So, is FragPunk worth your time? Let's dive in and find out together. Right when I got in, there was a lot of stuff. If I'm being honest, maybe a little bit too much. I was impressed by how much they had for sure, one main thing being how much customization you can make not only to your character but also to your weapons in more ways than one. It really does feel like the developers of FragPunk took notes on what every single community of every game was saying, such as Valorant or CSGO's communities, and added them into FragPunk. For the longest time when I was playing Valorant, there was an ongoing gag about being able to do emotes during matches, and in this game, you most certainly can. Jokes aside though, they have so many things people have been asking for in other games that it's hard to count. They have customization, a replay system, in-depth and unique animations for everything, an insane art style, being able to change your FOV, options for content creators, in-game rewards, insane graphics, gambling, and more gambling. There really is no end to it. But before we dive deeper in, let's talk about what FragPunk actually is. FragPunk is a free-to-play, first-person tactical shooter developed by Bad Guitar Studio and published by NetEase, the same publishers as Marvel Rivals. In the game, your objective is to plant or defuse a converter, similar to how you would plant or defuse a bomb in other FPS games like Valorant or CSGO, as previously mentioned. What makes this game different from the rest, however, are shard cards. At the beginning of a round, you can use shards you've gained in the game to activate different shard cards. There are over 200 unique shard cards in the game that all offer different twists. As of right now, the game is released on PC, but the console version of the game was delayed to an unspecified time. So unfortunately, console players will have to wait to play it. Anyways, let's dive into the actual gameplay of FragPunk, exploring and talking about all the good, bad, and ugly that lies within. A massive issue I noticed was that the movement doesn't feel great. I've spoken with a couple other players about this, and a lot of people seem to agree that the movement doesn't fit in with the rest of the game. There are a couple things that help with this, like setting your FOV to the max and the occasional shard cards, but for the majority of the time, the movement isn't great. A big part of what makes a game feel good to play is the movement, and this game heavily lacks that. I do understand that the maps are on the smaller side, and so increasing player speed would interrupt other aspects of the game, such as the time taken to rotate. However, this is a pretty glaring issue in the game, and I do think that they need to change it somehow. With that being said, the gunplay on the other hand feels great. Although I haven't tried every single weapon, most of the ones that I've tried have felt easy to control and satisfying when I landed multiple shots. I've heard people complaining about the time to kill in FragPunk, and although it can be occasionally frustrating or surprising to walk around a corner and immediately get beamed from across the room, I would say it's more forgiving than a game like Valorant, where a Vandal can instantly kill you with one shot. Whereas in this game, the rifle takes a minimum of 2 shots to kill. But of course, it isn't fair to be comparing games since FragPunk is its own title. Personally, I believe that the time to kill isn't a huge issue, but I have heard some negative things about it, so be aware if you're going to start playing. But let's talk about balance, because FragPunk definitely has a couple weapons that feel unfair compared to the rest of them. First up, the Meat Maker. It fires 11 pellets, each dealing 17 damage, meaning even if you land half of them, you're dealing more damage than a rifle headshot for simply firing once in their general area. If you play around cover, you can become virtually unkillable with this gun in your hands, even at medium ranges. Holding down sights with this gun can, in some circumstances, make the sight impossible to break through. And then there's the Resolver. This is a sniper rifle that can one-shot you up to 17 meters away, and past that it does 130 damage, making you one-shot to any other gun. Normally, this would be fine to have in tactical shooters, but unlike Valorant or CSGO, you don't have to work for it. This gun is free from the beginning, and you can use it as much as you want. Because of its damage and range, this weapon is very deadly from far away and up close. It can be very frustrating to go into a game where one or two of the enemies exclusively use these weapons in a match. Moving on, let's talk about the variety FragPunk has in its game, or more specifically, its different game modes, maps, agents, or lancers as they're called. You probably know FragPunk for its main game mode, a 5 vs 5 tac shooter similar to other games in that genre. But it does have a couple other smaller game modes that bring a lot of variety to FragPunk. There are multiple game modes in FragPunk circulation, from more competitive ones like Team Deathmatch or Glue Knight Grab, which is basically COD's Kill Confirmed, to other game modes that focus more on the fun, unpredictable aspect of FragPunk, such as Rocketeers, where you only use rocket launchers, Capture the Core, aka Capture the Flag, or Outbreak, which is also just COD Zombies but PvP. There are a bunch more on top of these game modes as well. The variety of game modes in FragPunk reminds me of Overwatch's arcade games, and it's something that really helps casual players enjoy games like these as well. As for its maps, well, they're kinda all over the place. Some maps feel extremely well thought out and carefully crafted, while others are super confusing to walk through, or they just let people teleport to the enemy spawn with barely any sound cues. As a new player, I feel that although there is always learning to do when beginning new games, it shouldn't be a struggle to figure out what's going on or where you are whenever you're in a match. Maps should be laid out clearly, so that the player knows where they are and where they can go next, but still figure out what parts of the map connect to each other and learn their map awareness. In their roadmap they recently released, they stated that every 4 months they're going to release a new map. This sounds great on paper, but if their maps are already having issues like these, it makes me more concerned for the maps in the future to be released if they haven't been properly tweaked and tested. Moving on to the Lancers though, I am a bit torn between liking how they've done the Lancers and hating it with every fiber in my being. There are about 3 Lancers that I feel are way too powerful compared to the rest of the roster. The remaining Lancers are great and feel wonderful to play, each having their own strengths and weaknesses as any Lancer should. The Lancer Broker, however, has a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher that, when hit, deals 100 damage to an enemy, and he can use this ability twice in relative quick succession. I don't think I can properly explain the hatred I feel when I'm casually sitting in a corner, then a rocket comes out of nowhere, giving me 0 time to react as I instantly die. It's essentially a free raise ultimate that he can use twice in a round. Next up is Hollow Point. With her ability One Last Kiss, she gets a free one-time use op, making the game a 4v5 before the round has either begun, or giving her a free win button if she's in a 1v1. The weapon also reveals enemies in her FOV when looking down the sights. And the last Lancer I feel is too overpowered compared to the rest of them is Axon, and more specifically his electric guitar ability. It's essentially a better version of the shotgun I mentioned earlier, and he gets to use it 12 times. I didn't even realize that it acted like a shotgun before, since whenever I spectated him, he was still one-tapping people easily from over 20 meters away with it. His grenades are also kind of annoying, but they do little enough damage, so it evens out. Going back to the roadmap they released, they also said that every 2 months a new Lancer would be released. This is incredibly worrying, even more so than the maps, since I would argue that new Lancers are way important to the balancing of a game than a map is, and if a Lancer isn't properly balanced when it's released, it could make some pretty big issues. I only know of one other game that has been releasing new characters this often, but even then, they had released their game in China for over a year before its global launch, so their characters were already relatively balanced. If you're wondering, the game is called Stranova, and it's a very good game I do recommend. Definitely not just because I make videos on it. No, I would never even think of anything like that. Anyways, the last thing I'd like to mention here is the monetization that they have in their game. And they have a lot. Because of the large amounts of customization they allow you to make, they, of course, have purchases for every single one of those. Weapons, stickers, characters, emotes, banners, etc. They even have a gacha system for some of their skins. Except it's not even a fun gamble like CS cases because you know what you're getting 100% of the time. It just mirrors other gacha games like Genshin Impact. If someone from FragPunk is listening, please add floats to skins in the game. It'll make the gambling way more fun, and yes, I am a gambling addict, thank you for asking. Moving on though, something that seriously surprised me was what they decided to do with their Battle Pass. Every game has a Battle Pass nowadays that's just commonplace, but FragPunk decided to add 2 separate tiers into their Battle Pass. So even if you purchase the Battle Pass, you won't get every single item in it. In order to get everything from it, you need to pay more than double what the first price is. It's a little absurd, and I do think they definitely took it a bit too far with this. They also have a membership program where you can sign up for a monthly payment in order to get exclusive rewards and a free battle pass and some other things. But with the bad out of the way, I can say that I do think they did some things right. In FragPunk, you are able to get weapons and more specifically knife skins for free. I haven't spent a cent on this game, and yet I was able to get lucky enough to pull a knife skin through the banner. This, as well as other ways to get skins like their events, weapon masteries, and competitive shops, mean that you aren't forced or even incentivized to purchase skins from the game. It is purely your decision to buy any given item. FragPunk doesn't try to push you towards purchasing anything you may regret, and even gives a nice little note to you in the shop about only buying in-game items if you have the funds for it. So what are my closing thoughts? Obviously, I think the game has a lot to work on. Everybody can probably agree with me on that. But for a newly released game, I also think they handled everything quite well. You can definitely see that the developers of FragPunk do truly care about their game, and even through all the monetization, you can tell this isn't just a money grab. They added so many features that nobody asked for or even expected, but it's the fact that they went above and beyond that proves this game has a good team behind it. I'm sure that eventually the game will be balanced out and the majority of the issues I mentioned in this video will most likely be fixed. As for right now, however, it's really your decision if you want to play FragPunk. If you think the game looks fun, play it, and if you don't, well, that's okay too. Not every game is going to be for everyone. I will definitely be playing more though. Even through all the flaws this game has, to me, it's a very well-made game, and I can rest well knowing that I'm helping a game that has developers who actually care about their players. That's gonna be it for this video. If you learned something new or intend on watching more of my content in the future, please do subscribe or like. For a smaller channel like myself, it makes a huge difference. I will definitely be making more content on FragPunk in the future, so be on the lookout for that. Alright, have a good rest of your days, and I'll see you in the next one.